Hey, what's going on? I'm Nick G. I'm a dude on the couch. I just wanted to talk about why I kind of get burnt out in this kind of news cycle. Like, I'm listening for actual stuff, like the real things. When Lisa Rubin drops something, boop, I'm on exactly that. You know what I mean? I'm onto the court files. I download them. I chew on them. I GPT them. I cross section them. Constitutional. I cross section them. State federal case law. This dude right here, absolute layman. You may not know this. I'm a couch guy. It's right here where I hang out. Um, but I don't want to hear people talk. I get frustrated when I'm hearing people talk and I'm like, hey man, you're using words. Words are intended to communicate. You ain't communicating. You're just using words. You're trying to get your one line off. You're trying to get your catchphrase, your buzz. I heard somebody say one time, can't attribute to anybody because I store everything in my cabeza. But one time I heard somebody say the worst thing that television ever did was it took away people's ability to have wit, because it gives you the lines, it gives you the context, it doesn't give you the understanding. Sometimes you think about, there are people who are educated in Shakespeare. I am not. Like I say, I'm a basic hominin, not a monkey. People like, and it's not funny to me, but to the people that spoke the language, to the people that knew the context, to the people that were in the loop, were kind of out of the loop, peripheral to the loop. We have a lot of that with hip hop culture, in the sense that, like, people use the buzzwords, they use the things, but they don't recognize the value of content that is derived from, that gives it the value. Dude on the couch. Where are couches? Living rooms. I just looked out the window for people that hear this, not see this. Anyway, I don't understand a lot of the stuff because it's contextual to that. That's the same thing with what's going on. Here's what I'm listening for. Are we putting boots on the ground in Iran? Hello? I'm hearing it. Where am I hearing it from? Not America. Nowhere in America. As a matter of fact, I have to set up my news sources so I get feeds from, on-site intelligence at the epicenter of where a news source is happening, and then the decay of knowledge degrades as you get further out. That's how I peel my smarts, which is listening to somebody else that was there. You were there, my guy? Was shaking. Tell me something that I don't know. And I'm going to give that in a tribute to Chris Matthews, which that was a segment, and back, I've always been a news head, but that was his segment at the end of every show. Tell me something I don't know. And then his big tweety bulbous head with the little wisps, they would be all there fringing. So I listen to the international stuff because they tell me something I don't know. But I listen to the I listen to the independent journalism community because they kind of shoot off the fly. Like how I'm a dude with some knowledge. So when Kyle Kalinske is Kalinske, hey, I'm new to this guy. Anyway, when I'm listening to Homeboy and he's talking and he's using funky words, I know I looked over to where my girlfriend hangs out. My girlfriend over here, when she's hanging on the couch, she's like, I can't take this dude seriously because he said this, that, and the third. And I'm like, that's why I take him seriously. I believe it. I read Violent J's book Behind the Paint in a sitting. I just put my buns down and put it in my head. And how did that work so easy? Because that dude writes literally in the syntax that I speak. Everything made sense. Everything. And that was kind of cool. I'm still not, for my dollar, I'm just not an Esrim guy, but there's nothing about that to anybody. I'm not. No offense. Definitely a down with the clown head. Like, I understand it as a concept. I'm digressing. I do that. Hold on. Back to what I'm talking about. There's no value in listening to everybody give their substance. Ooh, a judge farted. Cool. A judge said this. Cool. Give the report. Give some context. Give some personal experience. With me, what can I talk about? I can talk about due process all damn day. because due process is what it comes down to with me. For every individual, for everything deemed a sentient person, you know what I'm saying? They get the due process. And the people that are not sentient in the sense that they aren't about their facilities, they're giving somebody to facilitate for them in the sense that they have an ombudsman to process itself. Um, so much the news can get caught up. Like I say, Ukraine, that's the news. The United States selling, like literally, like putting bodies in a camp where you can see aerial photos of bodies of just bloody piles of meat. This dude has a family that still gets mail. That's the piles of meat that they have. It's not like a pig farm. It's not like anything like that. It's legit, homie. We're farming out the prison system. Me, my personal source of interest in the last few years has become civil rights. I read Black AF History by Michael Harriot. You're going to hear me talk about it all the time. Get used to it, buy it, so you know what I'm talking about, so I can start speaking shorthand, because that makes it easier. I listen about the White Lion. I read about Paulie Murray. I read about James Baldwin, another one of my dudes. But the big dig is reading about the due process, reading about civil rights. How do you find out what rights we do have, what rights we don't have? We read about the people that didn't have it and had to explain to somebody, no, my guy, I'm this. To me, everything is Trek. Everything. Of course, everything is wrestling. Everything is everything, depending on what my topic is. But everything is Trek in the sense that there's an episode called Measure of a Man where Picard has to explain to people, dude, this is a being. This dude has sentience. He may not be like yours. And I always think about that. And that was my inspiration to get into the 14th Amendment, get into Paulie Murray, get into her books. One of my favorite quotes by her, if I can remember it right, it's still new to me. Hope is a song in a weary throat. Dig it. Hope is a song in a weary throat. Paulie Murray. Going on from that, it's easy to get caught up in the OMG. I used to be that network TV plug-in. I'd pop it on MSNBC. Prior to that, way prior to that, I was doing, CNN. I'd start my day with Bill Hemmer and Soledad O'Brien. That was my day. When it became Soledad and Miles O'Brien, or is that just the Star Trek guy? I don't remember. Anyway, that was I lost interest. I guess that's why. And in the evening I'd watch Crossfire, and I just have the news on. Move on to MSNBC in my later life, and I do the same thing. I just have it on. I'd hate Andrea Mitchell. I'd hate what's her name, Chris Jansing. In our area, she was Chris Kapistashi. Shout out to Albany, New York. And then Katie Tur. Absolute hate Katie Tur. I feel like she's a disinfo mole. As a matter of fact, if you look at 4 o'clock, she always trends because people are always saying what a piece of shit she is, Katie Tur. And then I'd literally put it on Nicole Wallace until midnight when Brian Williams. Then I'd watch the rerun of Rachel Maddow, and that was my literal news source. So it's kind of easy to get caught up. Like, I relate to how people get their news in that fashion. But I choose not to get my news in that fashion. I choose to listen to people who are hungry to hear the thing. The problem with people that are hungry to hear the thing, they want to talk about what they heard. And then you start hearing, I'm getting my fingers in front of the camera, then you start getting this mesh network of conversational things. And then when you pop it over to the corporate network TV, you get the buzzwords, bump, 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 because those people that are reporting on it are kind of supposed to give those buzzwords that give them the cheap pop. Everything is wrestling. So that gives them the cheap pop on a grand scale. Here's your camera, here's your audience, cheap pop, save the thing. But when you're listening to, that shows that they're genuinely interested. Like my big sadness is listening to Jen Psaki when she's on her network TV show, because I'm like, bro, you're so much better than this. Or even when I'm listening to Caitlin Collins on CNN, bro, she is brutal. But you listen to her on like on the Bulwark when she's talking to Tim Miller, and it's like, I want to hang with this person. She don't play. She takes no quarter. I guess my big buzz and what my rant is, it's easy to get caught up on the not headlines. And I'm not saying this to bring up any topic. This is my alternate. Or I will. Ukraine, watch that. Iran, watch that. The fact that not just civilian. When I say civilian, I don't mean Nick G and dudes like me. I mean Eric Prince. I mean people with dollars are buying armies and they're doing things. You see how easy it is for Donald Trump to, manipulate somebody stochastically just by network TV. And if I may say to everybody, how neat is it you don't listen to what Donald Trump is saying. You don't listen to what the newsies are saying. You listen to what the Trump people are saying on TV because that's the call. It reminds me of this time. We were in the lunchroom. It's Whitehall, New York. It's 1990. Blah, blah, blah. Grunge was the thing. Here I was. Hold on. I was a hip hop head, and But anyway, these two dudes, Jason Ingleton and Tom Egan, they're sitting at the lunch table. You know what? It wasn't even lunch. I feel like it was a study hall that was just in there that period. And they had worked a game where Jay was saying, I can read Tom's mind, or I can project my image into Tom's mind. And Tom, in the work, would already have a predetermined what color is it. You know what I'm saying? So as soon as he said, is it this? If it was black, he could guess it, however the whole thing worked. But that's how the whole hustle works. Same thing, and I'm bringing this again into wrestling because, the two people are going into the ring. They know what they're going to do. That's the whole work. But it doesn't mean somebody isn't going to shout something from the crowd and they aren't going to react to it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I used to tune into the Attitude Era just to find out who was a crack whore this week. Stephanie McMahon, my mom, whoever's in the ring, somebody in the ring's mom. That's what I tuned in for because that was the work. But you knew where the bumps were going to happen. You knew who was going to win. You knew who was going to lose. You knew who was going to interrupt. You knew how some of the lines were going to be picked off. Actually, if I'm going into it, a lot of it's scripted in which they're getting away from now back to the old school carnival shoot. When I'm talking about, recognizing that, that's all that is. People are saying the line, they're doing the work. But back to the news. Ukraine. What's going on in Latin America is a big deal because Donald Trump is literally exporting the same thing. Like I'm saying, Eric Prince, and he's buying the, militias and stuff like that, utilizing that scope, not just saying that there's Blackwater as the name, but there's other ones. I mean, that's the big Russia gig, shtick. I think I combined them. Anyway, that's the big tell is the fact that Elon Musk is no different than the dude that's running the secret prisons over there with the meat piles. You know what I mean? There's no difference. There's no difference between what Elon Musk and Starlink and what we handed to his government. We literally, to bring this into Star Trek, the Borg has infiltrated our government, our culture, and we have to fight to get that back. What I like about it, and that's me, I like hearing about the people that are in court and they're fighting for it. Even the smallest piece of shit, dude. I'm not saying I'm a bully, but I'm saying there's been times where I could read that I was intimidating somebody and I let it fly. And I recognize sometimes when I pushed just that little bit too hard, I'm a scrub. People acknowledge me as a scrub. People that see me as their equal see me as a scrub, and I accept it. That's what makes me exceptional. To take a spoof on the old pick on people of color, I'm the exceptional scrub. I know things. I'm your equal. But I'll take you above because I raise all boats. Whoop, that's what I do. If I know, you know. I'm a data bank. We ping. So people see me as a basic scrub. And the scrub that we're getting into is completely lost my thought. Anyway, back to not getting lost in the things. The news that's important. Ukraine's important. What's going on in Iran? We are about to put boots. We have B-2 bombers. We have Air carriers over there. It's about to happen. When I say it's about to happen, it's about to go down. Dig it? Be ready. The only thing is, Russia's trying to publicly, and that's kind of the game. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of the game. And that brings me back to where I did get lost. The people on TV are talking to Donald Trump. He does not read his presidential briefings. What does homeboy do? He watches freaking TV. Boop. Whatever. And that's how he gets his news. But he watches bullshit TV. He doesn't know the difference between informational content, which is what brings me to my video. He doesn't know what brings you informational content and what gives you emotional content, what gives you vibes, what gives you somebody's opinion, opines. Like me, I listen to a lot of opinions. As a matter of fact, a lot of people like to cancel individuals for behaving or doing or whatever. I take everybody at their individual content. What is their individual content? Individual content is what gives me and my soul life benefit. I fucking love Bill Cosby. I do not condone anything that he says. I do support rape victims. I do regret my literal childhood in the sense that everything that talked to a man in my growing up talked to men about doing what? About how to talk to females. how to speak to a woman, how to speak to, and they wouldn't speak to a woman, you would speak through them, at them. They were a possession. You know what I'm saying? When you're listening to rap music about singing to women, they'd be singing about women, and the dudes probably didn't have women because of the things they were singing. I think about, and I'm not about to shoot my guy Heavy D, a lot of his lyrics, it's like, come on, dog. You're saying the things because that's the buzzword that would show big in a SoundCloud, but it's not really with content. A lot of the stuff I listened to in early rap, exactly the thing. I have a lot of shame from my youth because I didn't have enough interaction with people of content who knew things. So what was my information source? Watching movies, watching media, watching all that. That's why television's influential. That's why Donald Trump and Elon Musk are the way that they are, because they also learned by watching TV because people didn't want to be around them. Me, I'm an introvert. I was an indoors guy. I was a TV kid. That's my excuse. But that's not their excuse. They were fucking losers. And that was the only way they could socialize, by TV. That's why everything is like that Goomba mafia movie guy. And the truth is, what's the movie? The Godfather. People didn't act that way until that movie. And then people acted that way. Kind of like there was very localized culture throughout rap music in the early days of rap music until there became this conglomerate, rap culture that black people had just adhered to, or it kind of became assumed culture. Because when you finally look out the window, see what other people are doing, oh, my bad. I guess not me, but people. Back to what I'm talking about. And I'm going to bring this down to a close. There's no reason to fret while everybody's just jumbling words. They're just shaking up the sparkles. Like when you're a kid and you do crafts and you put in the water, the dish soap or whatever, and the sparkles, and you shake it up when you're angry and just calm down watching the things spin. That's what we're doing right now. We're shaking things up. We're watching the things spin. There's no content. There's no military movement to stop Donald Trump. There's nobody getting up in the face and doing a January 6th. I mean, they literally soured the milk that we need in this infantile way to nurture an uprising against fascism. And they just spent the last 4 years making it gross. And we feel gross. And the Tea Party made it gross. But here I am, Nick G, a dude on the couch. And I'm telling you, I am every bit original Republican that any elephant wearing motherfucker claims to be right now. I want people out of my business. I'm very straight. I'm very cis. I'm very white. I'm very European. I'm very me. But the reality is, I'm myself. And the more that I support trans people, the more I support gays, individuals, clowns, circus animals, Elvis, the more I support that, the more I can be my own thing. I'm Nick G. I'm a dude on the couch, and I'm out.